Hello, here we go again with the podcast. I've got my friend Lee, and I got my friend Dwayne here. They are going to be painting miniatures as well as I am. Lee, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Lee from the Battle Bunker HQ YouTube channel here in the UK, and new channel. Well, relatively new, about 18 months been going now. I've been wargaming now since early 80s, 1980s. Obviously, it was the family thing. My wife and my son were all heavily into wargaming, and so the wife at the moment is upstairs in the painting room doing some painting, and the boy, well, he's just not long got home from work, so he's on his PlayStation. so thought we'd jump on with Bill, sort of see what it's all about, really.
And tonight, sorry.
Yeah, so tonight all I'm going to be working on is a set of war games rules that I've been working on for the last couple of years, the Anglo-Zulu Wars. So that's what I'm going to be doing while we're chatting. So,
oh, nice. All right. And Dwayne?
Well, what's the crack? I'm Dwayne, or Scarnier. It would be my Orky moniker you might know me as. I run the Plasticraicgaming channel. I've been running that on and off since about 2010. I'm living in the Emerald Isle, Ireland. Tonight I shall be painting some bottlenecks for a custom mercenary unit I've made myself called the Black Hand Brigade. So I'll be throwing a bit of paint on these guys. I've been wargaming since about 1997. And I mostly play Battletech these days. I don't have an interest in playing much else at the moment. But, who knows what the future holds.
Hey, there you go.
Definitely.
You got to do what makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow your bliss, so I've been told.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to be as disciplined as you are, but I see, shiny, and I go in that direction.
Exactly that. I think we're all as well guilty for that at times, aren't we? The shiny syndrome, like, something new pops up. Oh, I quite fancy doing that. When have I got a chance to fit that in? It's.
And I am working on, let's see here, Second Massachusetts.
Oh, cool.
For American Revolution.
It was all over a cup of tea.
Uh-oh. And this is specifically for a competition.
Okay.
So the Great YouTube Wargamer Painting Competition, I think it's called. And the theme is winter, or not winter, fall or autumn. And so these guys are painted up for the Battle of Saratoga that happened in September 19th, 1777. So I figured that's as fall
General
as
Burgoyne.
Yep, General Burgoyne. These guys will be under Gates.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Did you see was it Little Wars TV recently? They put out with in conjunction with the American Battlefield Trust a game for Brandywine.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to watching that.
Yeah, it was interesting, really good. Yeah, really good fun. Looked like a good set of rules, a good little game they were playing. So certainly in the theme of what you're doing there, Bill. Yeah.
Yeah, a buddy of mine wants to do American Revolution, but out here, but he's picked up the Big Fat Lighty's Southern campaign, which is not what these guys are.
No. It's Swamp Fox, isn't it? Is it Swamp Fox?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So that'll be a thing. All right. And you're working on some BattleTech there?
Yeah, I have a lance that I tried and tested because I'm re-chopping stuff. So the units that I have, I've been trying out because I don't really have a lot of first-hand experience with some of the units. So I tried out a heavy lance last week against my friend. It worked out pretty well. I had an archer, marauder, a rifleman, and a warhammer. I gave that a bash, but I've been chopping and changing the mercenary unit. It's all new sculpt mix. The era is 3020, 3025s. I think it's 3028. I've been really sort of interested. I have one of my friends. He's kind of like the GM, so we're running off of the campaign operations rule set. So he generates. I roll the dice, and we see how many contracts I get. We're using the Chaos campaign rule set, and he generates up the contracts then. So then I have a choice between the different houses as to what contracts I want to go for, what type of contracts, whether I want to do garrison duties or recon, and there's the various levels of salvage rights that you'll have, and the ins and outs. I'll probably do a video about it when I'm about to start the campaign, showing people the contracts that have been generated and seeing which ones are worth taking. But for me, that's where BattleTech really shines is the level of detail in their campaign they have. You can have it so that it's more streamlined and abstract with the Chaos campaign system using war chest points where it's abstracted out, or you can go more nitty gritty and get right down to the C bills if you really want to. That's what I like about BattleTech. It's you're given a bare bones, you're given a foundation, and then you can build what you want off of it, add in more stuff, swap out rules. I really like that about the gaming system. You can really make it what you want.
How long have you been playing BattleTech? Don't mind me asking.
How long have I been playing BattleTech? I've had a rocky affair with BattleTech, shall we say. I tried it in the early 2000s, and I loved the rule set, but I didn't like the sculpts at the time, and they were pretty hard to get a hold of in Europe, especially in Ireland. They weren't cheap to get a hold of. They weren't easy to get a hold of. You'd have to pay custom charges. So you're looking at 12, 13, 14 euros for a mech. You know what I mean? It didn't seem very feasible to me. But then this whole new line of plastics have come out with the new plastic box sets, and it's a lot easier to get your hands on some of the mechs. So I'd always loved the rule set, and I saw that there was new mechs coming out. So I've been actively back into it sort of for about 3 years now, 2018. It's whenever they brought out the new beginner box set and the new Game of Armored Combat box set. That's when I really started to switch in.
I remember trying it back in the late 80s. The club I used to go to back then, and they as a group of guys, 4 or 5 guys, they were really heavily into it. And as you said, it was the miniatures, even for back then, they were okay. They fit the bill sort of thing. But the rules, it seemed very, like you're saying, very as much as involved as you want it to be. I just went down a different path, the historical side at the time, as opposed to going down the BattleTech route. But it did look good on the table, I must admit. And I also noticed that we came to over to America and went to Historicon back in 2016. And I couldn't believe the amount of tables that were being played with, BattleTech being played there. And that was quite interesting to see. So there was a lot of, it seems like a bigger following in the States at the time compared to over in the UK. So, I mean, like you said, the new box set that they brought out and everything, it seems to rejuvenated it back into the mainstream.
Oh, definitely. The Kickstarter that they did, I think they raised 2.5 million off of just the Kickstarter itself. I think it's 2.5, substantial chunk of change.
Yeah.
It really has sort of gained some momentum. So I'll be interested to see how Catalyst handle that. Apparently, there's going to be a European distribution hub off of the back end of the Kickstarter, which I'd like to see.
That's what you need. It's what it needs, isn't it? Yeah. Like get it out there.
Definitely get the product into people's hands. There's literally folk biting at the chomp to get at it. So, with logistics the way it is at the moment, hopefully they get all their ducks in a row, and the next few years will be really good for them.
Yeah, definitely. As guys, I'm very friendly with the guys at Foreground. I've known them for donkey's years, and they've opened up their gaming centre, or about to open up a gaming centre next to their factory. And one of the guys that the owners are out there is heavily into BattleTech, really heavily into it, and they're looking at setting up an event. That's what sparked me off, looking back into it, and obviously now seeing yourself in the miniatures I can see there on the screen. They look really good. They look really awesome. Plenty of character in them. So that's what it looks like to me.
Some really nice sculpts, and they come like this straight out of the box, pre-assembled, just plastic. There's a bit of giving them, but they're solid enough as well. And if you want to repose them, just decent enough blade, and away you go. They're reasonably
fine.
priced too. Yeah. You swear I had shares in them at this stage, yeah?
Well, reasonably priced compared to Games Workshop pricing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on your
Yeah.
perspective. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I recently took up fishing as a hobby, and
That ain't cheap at times.
well, it depends. Like it doesn't. I mean, it's like that's any hobby though. Like any hobby
Yeah, of
can
course
be
it is.
expensive
Of
as you
course
want
it
it to
is.
be.
Yeah, of
But
course it
like
can.
even bare bones going out, like I bought a rod and reel and line for like decent beginner one for €105 or whatever, and then a few lures would be like €20. So like there you go, that's like 125 quid, and you're
You're
out
out
and you're
there.
fishing and you're catching fish on it, like, you know what I mean? So that's a recent hobby for me, and it's kind of put into perspective the cash I've been putting into other hobbies and going, comparing how many hours of entertainment are you getting out of it. You know what I mean? I suppose
But I
time.
think that's what you're saying. You're right, and what you're saying is any hobby is only worth what you're willing to spend, not just financially, but there's also the time constraint as well. Time is not, you want to put hours and hours into your painting, your miniatures, playing your games, and now you want to sort of put some time towards doing a bit of fishing for a different form of relaxation. A hobby is what you want to make it. People play golf and do rank, buy clubs every year, so every hobby's got its own enjoyment for that person, I think.
Definitely, it's all about like each individual is going to have their own perspective on value,
Yeah.
both with time and financially.
Yeah.
So it's up to everybody as an individual to figure out,
What it is for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much. That's what it all boils down to.
So you're gonna do a Zulu rules there, huh?
Yeah, I going back about 2 or 3 years ago, I sort of had the idea. I've always loved the Anglo-Zulu War period. I mean, obviously, a lot of people sort of say it's Rock Street. It's got a little bit of romance about it, but it's not. It's just the whole campaign. And let's be honest, the British do get a bloody nose over there quite a bit. To be honest, a lot of the little battles and skirmishes and that they lose. And I think it's a way of you think it's towards the end of sort of the Victorian period, sort of middle end of the Victorian period, and it's sort of, as I say, it's always fascinated me really. And I thought, well, why not try and create a game that's, I mean, at the moment it's going to be done based around Rock Drift itself, but the bolt-on bits is going to be for the rest of the campaign. So each bolt-on bit will be, say, the Battle of Lundy, Battle of Islamana, and so forth. So it'll just the set of rules will just grow and grow with minor little changes to it, like to add in extra flavors for different colonial troops, and things like that as the battles progress. But the whole premise of this is a pure. If you imagine going to a show or a convention, as let's say in the States, you go to a convention and you've got a participation game, get people playing. It doesn't matter who you are, new to the hobby, experienced in the hobby, or whatever. This game will just allow you to have fun, and that's what it's all about to me.
Yeah, I used to do Zulu War 20 years ago with the Sword and the Flame rules.
Yeah. Very popular set of rules. It's still going strong today, isn't it? That set of rules.
Yeah, but I don't know. It shows its age these days because I tried to use it recently as a test to see if their French and Indian War section would be good, and it's not.
All right. Okay.
It lacks very good morale.
Yeah.
Morale in the rules. So,
Have you looked at the later edition of Muskets and Tomahawks for that?
I got the first edition and I played that a couple of times. Then I went over to the Osprey book. Rebels and Patriots.
Yeah.
Which is basically the same game as Lion Rampant.
Yeah.
But for Black Powder period. and it's a nice set of rules. I'm gonna be kicking around with the Two Fat Lighties Sharp Practice pretty soon.
Yeah, that's a good fun set of
See
rules.
how
Yeah,
that
I played them a lot, Bill. They're all right. A good set of rules.
they're a good set of rules.
Yeah,
Okay.
good set of rules. Yeah, because they do create a lot of tension and that in the whilst you're playing, and in whether you use the cards or the chits for activation. Again, that's adds another element of tension and which I quite like. And the other thing I quite like about the rules is you can set tasks. So if you want, say, you want to go and chop some trees down or whatever to build your defenses and whatever, you can set that as a task. So you've got your sappers going out, cutting the trees down and building your defenses up, and it's going to take you so many turns or so many points worth to activate that task activation. So I quite like that, and again, it sort of makes it sort of real. You're actually happening, everything's happening at the time as you're playing, and you can imagine these guys going around doing these sort of bits and pieces and that, which is good fun.
Yeah. The other set of rules I've used for the same genre is by 2-hour war games, and actually 2 sets of rules from them: long rifle and muskets and mohawks.
I've never played them, Bill, so I couldn't say.
The long rifle is based off of very focused in skirmish games. So you're talking about maybe 3 to 7 miniatures per side.
Okay.
Type of focused in skirmish.
Yeah.
And then the muskets and mohawks pans out so you can do larger battles.
Right.
So, and it's 2-hour war games. They focus on rules that you can play. The big difference between that rules and all other rules that I've mentioned is this rules you can actually play head to head like the other rules.
Yep.
Or you can play cooperatively.
Yeah. Okay.
Mechanics of the rules, or you can play solo, and which is a different beast if you're playing a cooperative game.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat, and then they got this own campaign for that and I think that the campaign is not that drawn up, and I'm disappointed with a lot of campaign rules these days with skirmish sets out there. I guess Games Workshop had me spoiled with Necromunda and Vordaheim. So
yeah.
That's the level that I expect for
especially a skirmish game, like you said, you should have that. Yeah.
So what you're saying is Andy Chambers ruined your campaign expectations. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat, kind of like Necromunda and Gorka Morka. Gorka Morka was pretty much like a port of Necromunda into just like orky ash wastelands. But for me, campaign wise, like I've always been drawn to the idea of campaign play, the idea of battles, having long-term effects over a victory, rather than I've never really liked the whole I show up, you show up, we just play a game and we tear lumps out of each other and then we leave. Because one of the campaign systems, one of the Games Workshop ones that I really enjoyed playing was Battlefleet Gothic, which was pretty much, Battle of Jutland in space was the base concept. Chambers said in an interview, if I read it correctly. But I really admired how the game didn't work unless you were playing a campaign, because the play styles didn't play out correctly, because people would just go hell for leather, not care about casualties, and so some very powerful ships that otherwise in campaign play there would be massive disadvantages for losing them. They wouldn't suffer those drawbacks. Like there's a lot of that rule set was about nursing your resources, getting to the point with your ships, where they're just about, if you keep pushing them, they'll be destroyed, and there's more victory points for salvage. So there's an onus on, right, you're not going to win this battle, cut your losses, get out. I really like that, and in campaigns of it, that really shone. Whereas in one-off games, in Battlefield got it, but in a lot of gaming systems, people play differently. You know what I mean? If you know that you're going to have to use the same miniatures and play them through into another game, and you only have so many resources, you may not be able to repair all of them or refit everybody. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really like that about campaign play. It's a totally different mindset. Your strategy changes. You don't want to throw everything in for a victory at the start of the campaign, because you might scupper yourself in the long run. You know what I mean? I really like how the dynamic changes in that regard.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's a question then, isn't it? Do you think then? Because I agree with you there. I think if you're playing in a campaign, or you're putting a force together and in a campaign setting, you then have got to make all the choices. Like you said, do I stay and fight this battle, knowing that if I could win this battle, but at a cost of the next one, or the cost of supply, or the cost of losing resources somewhere else down the line? I'm not going to get resupplied. I'm not going to get the manpower back in. And I think that is what is definitely missing in a lot of war games. I think, again, this is the question: do we think then that the way that the miniature war games has gone at the moment, with the likes of saying Flames of War, 40k, the points-based tournament style systems, is that now taking over? Or are we losing a part of our hobby that we've come to rely on, and it is dying? It's a dying breed, as you said, Bill. You missed the campaigns that was in the skirmish games, in the modern games. Are we losing that now in favour of companies producing these other sets of rules? I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I've not seen it. I see there is a set of rules out there called the Frostgrave and Stargrave rules.
I've played Frostgrave, and they are very good. Especially, I played the first edition, and I've got the second edition, which I've played also. The second edition is far better, and it's a good gaming system.
I like the campaigning of that, although I'm not sure if I have. I feel that the 20 die opposed 20 dies are rather swingy. And I think I would prefer 6-sided dice for that game.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Me personally, I wish what he had done overall, I wish he'd used, because he's obviously based a lot of it from D&D, Necromunda, Mordheim. He's based it all around those systems. I would rather him used to keep it as a role-play-esque tabletop game. Just use polyhedral 6, D6, D10s, D12s, etc. Then that way you can base a lot of you can characterize your characters even more, put more flavor into them with different traits, using different dice. That I think would work quite well for Frostgrave.
Yeah, it's but then again, I haven't played it enough to really make a good judgment on it.
Mm. As I said, I think the second edition is better than the first, and it does negate that swingy dice roll, as you mentioned, a little bit in there, because you could have had some in the first edition. You could have had some really powerful wizards turning up and playing a game against somebody who's just starting out. Had a couple of games, their wizard's not that powerful yet, and they just get tabled. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a no. It's what we're saying about campaigns. It's a no go before you start it. You know what I mean? So,
that brings in an interesting point, though. Is there no? I don't know. The only terminology I know for them is elastic band mechanics. Is there anything like that built into
the second edition has got more of that built in. It was a bit like Necromunda did it years ago, didn't they? If your war band was Outclassed is the other one. You got other traits. The other person got other traits to play in that game, didn't they? Other abilities in that game, extra rerolls and things like that. They use a similar thing in Frostgrave, and that there is a sliding, like you said, an acid band sliding mechanic, but not in the extreme extent. The first edition definitely wasn't. That was just, you just got tabled. You didn't stand a chance really. But yeah, as I said, I think that's part of the issue, isn't it? At the moment, is I think a lot of companies are writing rules at the moment, and I mean, obviously, BattleTech's been around for donkey's years, and you can tell, as we were saying off stream there, the way that the basic mechanics has stayed the same throughout its lifespan. I think that's a good thing, because those that are getting into the hobby will learn it at a level. Those that have already been playing it have got the knowledge of that game, the grounding of the game, and they can teach the newcomers coming along, and everyone then can pick it up and enjoy the game. For the game, you're not having to worry about what the rules are. You're just playing a game. That's what I like about in some parts of wargaming, and that.
Oh yeah.
Well, this is it though. It really boils down to are you going to bring out rule sets for the sake of rule sets, and you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or do you want to keep your core rule set and refine it over time? Exactly. And I think with the likes of BattleTech, and I'm sure there's other gaming systems that do it as well, I appreciate the long term approach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as we were talking about, even forces and what's in vogue now, this whole sort of campaign style play, I don't know if it's gonna last long term. I can see that it's like, for financial accelerating finances, shall we say, or I'm trying to think of a term to put it politely, but you understand what I get. It reminded me of Magic the Gathering in the early 2000s. Yeah. Someone introduced it to me. They were saying, and it's like, oh, you'll build a deck, and there's a new set of cards every 6 months, and after 2 years, your deck's no longer tournament legal.
You're starting again, and
you're starting again. I feel like some wargaming systems are like that now. That's literally what they've turned into. And folks like myself and a few of my friends have been long-time players for those systems. We're not into that. That's not our cup of tea, and I think this is why we're seeing a lot of folks going to other gaming systems. Like, there's literally like an exodus of players from Warhammer 40,000 into BattleTech, and I think that's good. A bit of diversity on for folk. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket.
I struggle with 40k. I used to play 40k a lot. Back in 4th edition, I played it to death.
Good edition.
I think that was the best edition they've ever done. But that's in personal taste. But I've played a few tournaments with it. I was never into tournament play, because I want to build models. You know what I mean? It's the Games Workshop produced a model at that time. I think, I quite fancy that. I like that. Whether it was any good or not, I didn't really care. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to play those miniatures, and I think that's what's forgotten now. As you said, I think the rules are, it's a 4-year cycle, and it's rule book, all the army books, throw away. Rule book, all the army books, throw away, and that's what it is over and over again. And I just think to myself, I sit back and I think, well, I can remember being a teenager when the early Space Orcs and that came out, and the Space Marines come out back in the early 80s there. And I can just think to myself, you've got 30, nearly 40 years worth of narrative, and you're not using it. All you're interested in is the points at the end of the book. What about the narrative in the game? What about the narrative while you're playing? And as I said, go back to your campaigns. That's important, because, if you're playing Marnus Calgary, if you're Ultramarines, you want him to be Marnus Calgary of the Ultramarines on the table. You read about him in the books. You've read about him in your codexes. You want that sense of you're playing him. Not that he's so many points, he's got this and he can do that and he can got this ability, and that's not narrative to me. I get a disconnect. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
I think, the way that it's invoked, that sort of influences gaming culture at large, because they're the biggest fish in the small pond as it is. And I find that even affects what miniatures are bought and the style of play, because I found myself when I was, when I'm looking at what miniatures and what units I want to take to play BattleTech and to play campaign, I'm thinking long term. Like, I'm not thinking what's the most overpowered thing I can get in here. What does the min max damage? You know what I mean? The first thing that came to mind when I'm picking units is that I'm going to have to replace them. So what ones are easy to replace when they're lost? Like, it shifts the focus altogether. Like, your priorities totally change. There's no point in having this very, ultra rare tech that does a lot of damage, and then if it gets lost in one battle and you can't replace it, or it's not impossible for you to replace it, it's like, well, you've leaned on that crutch a bit too much. So it's like, well, what are you going to do in that regard? You know what I mean? Whereas my mindset, like the Archer in BattleTech, this was supposed to be, one of the most produced mechs going in the lore for its era. So that's why I've leaned towards it. Like, literally, there are traits for some of the mechs where they're ubiquitous, where they're easy to get replacement parts for, and that's what I looked for. That's what I prioritized when I decided to play a campaign set was, can I replace them? There's no point in getting high-end rare tech that I can't replace. It's going to be a long campaign. There are going to be losses, and you're trying to think ahead. Yeah. What replacements am I going to need? Am I going to have enough resources? You know what I mean? You're thinking to yourself, right, if I gamble on this mission and I lose, I can just about make it out. Whereas if I gamble on the next mission and I win big, maybe I'll be able to buy some more replacements or some upgrades, or, I like that. I like that about long-term campaign play. It's, you might be forced to have an odd set of weapons because you couldn't get a replacement for the original ones, or, you know what I mean? But it's like, even like during the war, you know what I mean? During World War II, it's like this type of stuff happened. It's, like the Germans in the North Africa campaign, capturing British tanks, and Rommel used them.
Borrow, isn't it? It's best to borrow, and that's what
it's actually, you know what I mean? So everything becomes this sort of hodgepodge. As long as it works, get it out there. You know what I mean? We've captured a lot of ammo off of this ammo dump, so we'll use, whatever armaments we can get our hands on. Even even Italian tanks being used by the British at some stage, and everything. Yeah. I like that though, because it's not just cut and dry. It's not just we've got these tanks.
You're adding character and flavour and actual depth as well at the same time to your gameplay, and also your narrative that you're creating to play your game as well. Because I think a lot of things that in wargaming, narrative, there's no narrative in any games. You can walk around a lot of conventions and that. There are people having fun, and there's some great games out there, don't get me wrong. But no one's getting connected to it. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I like. Whether it be a big game, a small game, skirmish game, large giant scale game, there has to be some form of connect for the players. Even if especially when you're bringing new people into a game, because you want them not necessarily to get hooked on your game. You want them to be hooked in the hobby. If they're hooked in the hobby, they can bring somebody else in. That way, we can grow and expand the hobby bigger. I think some of these game systems don't allow that, if that makes sense. You're sort of almost tied to one thing, and you then you get tunnel vision, and you lose your focus for the wider spectrum of hobby. As you said about, you were into your 40k and you've got over to BattleTech, and you're really into that now, and you can sort of see the diverse and the wide scope of what BattleTech can offer you. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, we're all trying to evangelize the hobby. And BattleTech is a really nice platform for it because of the fact that it's well established. Its lore, quite frankly, is more deep than Games Workshop's 40k lore. You can go down a rabbit hole of all sorts of stuff with the lore. And there's books, there's all sorts of. There's even a cartoon show.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look on YouTube, or there's a cartoon show. I think it lasted maybe 1 or 2 seasons, but
right.
It was about the not the invasion, the clan invasion, so they made the clanners the bad guys and wanting to do the bocce ball and their clan speak.
That's cool. That's really cool. That's a lot of look at that now. You said that.
But there's but of course, there's what's funny is that people talk about Games Workshop being sue happy. The opposite happened to BattleTech. Harmony Gold went and tried to sue BattleTech for the rights of the design of a lot of the mechs that they're using. And so they had to redesign a lot of the mechs so they'd be completely different from that Harmony Gold intellectual property. And this it's been a cloud over BattleTech for a while.
I've always kind of found that kind of strange that, like, in the genesis of the game, that they decided to license a lot of mecha designs from various Japanese animes in the 80s. Obviously, it came back to bite them in the ass in regards to who owned the actual license for distribution in that regard, hence all the lawsuits. But I've always found that kind of odd. I don't know, maybe it's a time before, it was before my time, so maybe I just sort of take people being able to design their own sort of mechs for granted, or, maybe it was a different area of the early 80s in regards to gaming. But I've always found that kind of strange. I've only ever heard of it after the fact in regards to the lawsuit, but I've just the initial concept. I've found it strange that they'd start up a game and borrow designs from elsewhere. I'm like, you're asking for trouble, then, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the Games Workshop, when doing the Tyranids, they made their bugs completely different from the the Alien series bugs. Although the old Hormigons, the metal models, look suspiciously like
him. Yeah, they did. Yeah, you're right there.
So, I mean, they weren't the only ones to copy.
No.
And but I just think it's funny that what they did was they used the popularity of those Japanese giant robot cartoons to draw people into the hobby. Yeah. Because back in the late 80s, those cartoons were immensely popular, at least in the US.
Like I said, I can remember back in, say, early 80s, watching, early to mid 80s, I suppose it would have been. Was Battlestar? No, what was it? Oh,
Robotech?
No, what was it? What was it called? Oh, it's just on tip of my tongue. I've forgotten it now.
Macross?
Macross?
No, Battle of the Planets. I think it was originally. It was a Japanese anime, wasn't it? And then it was. Is it the Americans bought the license for it? And they redone all the stories or something like that on it, and they've obviously put it over. And obviously the UK bought it, and we watched it over here. I can remember. So it was a Saturday morning. It was always a 9
Saturday
o'clock
morning cartoons.
Yeah, all the cartoons. Yeah. I remember watching that as a kid. Battle of the Planets. Yeah, I used to like watching that. Different to watch. Yeah.
Zoltron. Voltron?
No, I don't remember that. I don't think we didn't really have a lot over here of anime things and that. No, it's only been the last sort of 20 years, I suppose, we've got into it over here. But I'd probably be wrong. And somebody in the comments will say, no, that's not true. But that's only what I can remember. Like, sort of late 70s, early 80s, and that it wasn't that much.
Yeah.
Thunderbirds, yes, we had. Obviously, that was a big thing over here. Stingray and that sort of thing. That was really big. But no, nothing anime.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Joe 90, was that another one or something?
Joe 90, yeah. Fireball XL5. That was a bit before my time, but they used to rerun that on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, you get the reruns.
Captain Scarlet. That was a thing. Captain
Yeah,
Scarlet.
man. That was a good one. I mean, it was before my time, but like I got the reruns and I used to love Captain Scarlet.
Yeah. I've never heard of those. So
You've not, what? Oh my, you haven't lived.
what about the Terrorhawks? Remember Terrorhawks?
Terrorhawks. No. I've only recently discovered them. I've only recently discovered them and come across them, and they, oh my god, they looked horrifying, man. It was because they went from the puppets and they went to sort of this like soft latex sort of. They were different, really.
Yeah.
They were trying to advance things, and I was like,
should have just left it.
just you had a good thing going, mate. Just stick with it. But the thing I used to love about the likes of Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet and Stingray and the rest of them was you'd have the puppets, but anytime somebody needed to flip a switch or turn a a console or out the door, it would just be like someone's hand in the uniform. Yes. I used to love that. I used to love that one. Still tickles me pink to this day. I'm like, bless.
Yeah, brilliant. It was brilliant. But you can imagine though, as a kid, that you watch it, you're really gripped in it. You're like, yeah, this is really cool.
But the models look so brilliant. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it was Thunderbirds, but I can remember there's like some like rocket jet aircraft and the landing gear went on it. And they had to like put another vehicle underneath and land the nose of it. But like the models that they had for those shows were amazing. Absolutely amazing. They really were.
Yeah, I must admit, you think back in the day when they were making them sort of in the late 60s, you think that it's just something else, isn't it? The technology to put all that together. I mean, I was watching, moving on a little bit, but I was watching a making of an early Star Wars Episode 4, and obviously they were trying to recreate with CGI the Death Star run at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, obviously, with CGI and computerized graphics and everything else that you can do as opposed to the models that they had at the time, it can look better. But they said the hours they put into making just that trench run in CGI compared to the hard work and to get the frame shot right and everything right with the model was a lot harder work, and it just goes to show even now it still stands a test of time. You can still watch original Star Wars New Hope and it's still as good. To me that is the best Star Wars. The first three are the best Star Wars. The others are not Star Wars. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That trench run, I'd have to bust your bubble on that one. That's a copy off of an older movie called Dam Busters. It's a
there's a few. I think there's like 666 Squadron or something like that as well.
Yeah. So I mean, when you think about it, though, is to use models to capture that. And whereas today, obviously, like you say, Hollywood would use CGI, and even like you said, to get it is to look as good as what back then. It's marvelous what they could have done. What they've done back then without computers. It's just brilliant. For me, those, as I said, the first three Star Wars are the films. It's just not into the others really. It's too much CGI.
I have to disagree.
Yeah, go on, Bill. What's up then?
Okay, so the first movie was A New Hope, and then the second movie was the Star Wars Holiday Special. And the third movie was the Return. It was Empire Strikes Back, and then the fourth movie was. So I would have to say the most loathed Star Wars movie ever, and it's worse than anything that Disney's come up with, is the Star Wars Holiday Special. That's the worst ever. It came out in 1978.
I don't know. Have you seen The Last Jedi in its entirety? I'm like,
Ooh.
You know, the bar was set pretty low.
You know what? Compared to the holiday special, that's like a Academy Award winning movie.
No, I'm sorry, Bill. I can't believe you. I'm gonna have to watch this holiday special myself, and I
have to rate it. I must have a rating system.
I'm not. I can't believe such statements. I'm sorry.
It's so bad that Lucas refuses to acknowledge its existence.
I don't know. Yeah. See, for me, the best Star Wars is Empire Strikes Back. I absolutely love the Empire Strikes Back because the first one, New Hope, it's all sort of a bit glitz and a bit shiny and all that. The second one is a bit dark and a bit sinister, and I wish they kept with that theme through the rest of the films, but they sort of went to Return of the Jedi and it become teddy bears, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Let's blow up this moon-sized, space station above your planet, but sure, everything will be grand. You know what I mean?
Because the teddy bears are sorted out.
Yeah, I mean that's what was it? Not the Last Jedi, the one after that. What was it called?
A New Hope.
No.
The Last Jedi. Yeah, The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker. So
yeah, it's like the Force Awakens.
The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you gotta imagine like this. The Emperor, he got killed by well, obviously Darth Vader threw him down the thing, but he ultimately got defeated by the Ewoks, these little teddy bear commandos. And he has to actually explain how he got defeated to the Sith Council, and that how did that pan out?
These little bears, they were vicious, man.
I still want to be in charge. I'm the Emperor. I got defeated by commandos.
Just don't send me back there, man.
You weren't there. You wouldn't understand. Speaking of Star Wars, I recently tried out the X-Wing game. My friend has been meaning to teach me how to play for going on 3 years now, and we finally got a game. It's like, I should teach you this game. Oh, we really should. You know what I mean? And it just eventually you got around to it, and it's not bad. It's not bad air combat. It's pretty much like an air combat fighter game. You know what I mean? Using maneuver templates. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's all right. You know what I mean? I think it could do. I've only played it the once, but my initial impression was it could probably do with a little bit of balancing in regards to the forces. But apart from that, like I like it. Oh, and the price point as well. Oof.
Yeah.
My God. I mean, I like me some TIE fighters, but like if you bought 7 of them, geez, you'd have no kidneys left, let alone one.
And they're pre-painted.
They're pre-painted. I do appreciate pre-painted miniatures. I do not appreciate the price tag attached to them, though. I'm like, are they cheaper if they come unpainted? I don't mind then. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I thought that was actually kind of remarkable. What was it, 5 years ago when they were up in their highest with with Fantasy Flight Games? They were literally making more money for that single game than for that year that they're the highest than Games Workshop as a whole. for money being made. That was super popular gangbusters, that's for sure. And I jumped in on that train, and I've got all sorts of first edition stuff, but I haven't jumped onto the second edition.
Get the squirrel. Get him.
I got 3 dogs here. I got a border collie. He's the old man. He's grumpy.
Get off the lawn.
And then his name is Gandalf. And then I've got Louisiana Catahoula leopard dog here. Her name is Arwen, which is another Lord of the Rings name. All right. And then we switched with our Labra healer. She's our puppy, and she's Ahsoka. So we went to Star Wars.
You went from Lord of the Rings to the Mandalorian, was it?
I did like The Mandalorian. That was a really good Star Wars thing.
Yeah, it was a great spaghetti western. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good storylines and that in there as well. I thought it was really good.
I think that's the best Star Wars that Disney's produced so far.
Yeah. Yeah, again, going back to what we were saying earlier, it's got that sort of dark grittiness about it, which is what I quite like. It's what you would imagine is happening in the fringes of what's going on in Star Wars world. It's not all glitz and glam, you know. It's there is that the down and dirty, a bit like obviously what you're doing with your BattleTech, and that he's going out doing jobs, and that he's got contracts to go out and fulfill. You know, and it's quite interesting. I do like the concept of it.
Well, this is it, and then picking what contracts you want to do. Like,
Mm.
do you want to do garrison duty for 12 months and be bored out of your tree, and until something happens? But isn't that's supposed to be war, though? Isn't that what most soldiers say to you? It's a lot of waiting around, doing nothing.
90% bored and 10% fear.
Yeah. So it's like, that sort of seems somewhat realistic then in that regard.
Yeah. That's I don't know. I never experienced bullets being flown in my direction, so.
Neither have I, and nor do I want to.
No. Coming close to trains like I do for my job is bad enough. That's enough for me.
Are you in Anorak?
No, not at all. Not at all.
There's the 9:10.
No. Basically, I was a signals and telecoms engineer, so I fix the faults when the trains are stopped. I go out and fix them. So
you were the guy they'd point the finger at and blame then when things go awry.
Yeah, I'm the guy you're waiting for when you're sat on the train, and he's saying, "Well, start the signal. Wait, there's a signaling failure ahead. Right? You're waiting for me to go and turn up."
Hey, there we go. It's a very useful job. That's for sure.
Some might even say necessary.
Yeah.
So this rule set that you're designing, Lee.
Yep. Yeah.
What's it based off of? Like, how does it work? Is it a D6 system or?
Yeah, it's all on D6. Basically, me as the umpire, for argument's sake, I will control the Zulus. You guys, there'll be 4 players, each controlling certain aspects of, say, Rorke's Drift. So one of you will be Lieutenant Brumhead, one of you will be Lieutenant Chard, somebody will be Colour Sergeant Bourne, and another character I've put in there is Corporal Allen. In the film, Corporal Allen is the guy that gets shot in the shoulder, and him and Hitch are dragging the ammunition crate around. If you actually read his account of the battle, it's you can understand why he got the VC. It was quite good. But I've also put other characters in, like Henry Hook. There's Lieutenant Ardendorf, Corporal Sheets. There's all the other characters. They all play a role. And what will happen is at the start of a turn, I'll draw a card for the Zulus. That might be an event, might be a Zulu unit appearing. and then roll. If it's a Zulu unit, we'll roll for a reaction. What reaction they're going to do? Are they going to skulk around, try and maneuver around the drift? Dice to see where they're going to appear from, and so forth. And then the British get a chance to react and do whatever they want to do: shoot, move. It'll help build up their defences in the drift, and all things like that. So in each turn, that can keep happening. You've got ambushes that will happen. You've got obviously fighting within the hospital and the storehouses. You can fight through the different rooms of the store and the hospital, sorry. And then potentially catching that building on fire, as it did happen. And I've also put in there a mechanic for the eclipse. There was an eclipse of the sun that happened that day. I've put in an eclipse in there. So again, the Zulus thought that was the witch doctors thought that was it's definitely on our side, So I put in rules that will allow certain other things to happen, like more units will appear and so forth, because they've got that dander up now. They're really up for it. And so hopefully, and it's just basically the British have just got to hold out, defend the drift to the last. But what the players don't know is I haven't told them how long they've got to hold on for.
Oh, right. Yeah, so that builds the suspense somewhat.
Builds the suspense. And at times on the Zulu cards, you might have, there's a British event on there. And I've got a separate deck of cards where the British will have their own events and things will happen. There's things in there, they can earn VCs for doing heroic actions. They can get the 3 feathers for being cowardly, and that sort of thing. So although that didn't happen at the time, that's just a bit of flavour been thrown into the game.
Okay.
But again, it's just trying to create that sort of fun narrative-based game, whereas like Bill was saying, playing cooperatively. So the players are playing cooperatively. They need to defend the drift, but they also want to win some VCs for themselves. So at times they might want to do something heroic for themselves, if you know what I mean, to earn those VCs, and at the expense of potentially not helping their colleagues out, if you know what I mean. So it's up to them. But again, like I said, as the umpire, I'm sort of sit back, I'm watching it all unfold, and laughing really, because I think it's funny. But just to watch them just try and defend it to the last.
Have you seen the Mr. Babbage rules for?
Yes, I have. Yeah. So again, sort of very similar. So Mr. Babbage has got it comes on, he rolls to see where they're going to go, how far, and whatever it is. Left, they move right, they come on bottom corner. It's this very similar sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, but the whole game, you could, if you wanted to, play completely solo. If I want, if you wanted to sit down and play it yourself, you could. It's as easy as that. I just do it as an umpire or games master, just to sort of create that little bit of extra tension. So if I don't want them to see a dice roll that I'm making for something else, I might just roll it behind the screen like a DM, and just have a bit of fun that way. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I get you.
I use those Mr. Babbage rules for playing a Flames of War game solo.
Yeah.
And
that worked well. That worked really well for that.
Oh yeah, I was playing like a strategic withdrawal with Germans on the Eastern Front, and Mr. Babbage was running the hordes of Soviets waves, and boy, it was I was hanging on by my fingernails. It was pretty intense.
I don't know if you can see it on screen, but this is what I've just been putting in the sleeves a minute. Oops, on the camera. So that's obviously one of the character cards, his Lieutenant Chard. And on the front of the card there, he's got his abilities. And then on the back, oops, you might not be able to see it very well there.
How many land do you have to tap to activate them?
Sorry? Oh, yeah.
How many land do you have to tap to activate them?
Just like that. Look where the card come from.
So,
go on. Sorry, Bill.
How many miniatures have you painted so far?
I've got about 120 British, and the Zulus I can recycle. They just keep recycling. I've got enough Zulus to be able to play the game.
You're never gonna have enough Zulus.
No, you're never gonna have enough. there'll always be enough, if you know what I mean. So just keep getting them on, God, just
come along with a bucket and just
exactly.
I think when I was playing, I had 700 Zulus painted.
Mm-hmm.
I sold that army 10 or 15 years ago, but yeah, in order to get a good, you have to have you need at least 10 Zulus per for every British soldier. I think.
All the units I've got are basically 4 bases of 8 figures. Some are 6 bases of 8. Because again, it depends on what the card tells you is going to be coming on the table. And again, some of you obviously veteran units, some are led by the Indunas and so forth, which all again gives you extra abilities for reactions and what they can do in the combat. But like I said, the whole premise really is to make sure that the British play as a team. But by putting the element in there that they could win VCs for themselves, gives another little trait to say, well, I might do this instead of, if you know what I mean. I might not help you out there. I might do this for myself. I'm going to get 3 VCs for doing this for my men. Like, you're not going to get anything. So that's thank you. Do you know what I mean?
So they want to win, but they want, each individual
The whole
wants to have all the glory.
Exactly that. The whole idea is they all win effectively because they're all working together as a team, and that is the only way that Rorkestrip was a success. You all work together, but by putting the other element in of trying to win those VCs, it's like, well, okay, then I might do this, then and I might not. Do you know what I mean? It's so it's just getting a little bit of extra tension.
Yeah, that's actually kind of fun because of the selfish element.
Exactly, and like you were saying before about campaigns and rules and that is you get everyone plays differently, don't they? Do you know what I mean? And we all got our own characters and how we play war games and playing in the campaigns, like you were saying about looking after this particular mech, because you might not be able to get the resources to repair him or to do what to upgrade him or anything. So you become attached, and I think that's what I like about wargaming is trying to be attached to your units and have some form of connection there, which then, like you said, it goes alongside the narrative of when you're playing the games. And so again, putting something like that into this game, I think it's going to. I mean, I'm into my 7th beta version at the moment, and this Saturday we're taking it out for doing a actual playtest and that with a group of people for the first time to the public, sort of thing. So hopefully that's why I'm getting everything together tonight. Make sure everything's ready to go. But hopefully, yeah, it'll be a good game. Everyone will enjoy it, and as long as people smile and have fun, that's half the battle. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a lot of painting ahead of you, though.
Yeah,
Furies makes plastic Zulus.
That's why Mel's upstairs. She's painting.
If she's painting your Zulus, I would definitely get her some chocolates or something. Yeah.
She loves it, mate. She I mean, I am very lucky, as you know yourself, Bill. You've seen us on the channel and that. Lucky to have all my family, my wife, my son. They're heavily into wargaming as much as what I am. We all like different aspects of it as well. So it's not a one size fits all. We've all got a share in everything, and I think that's it's brilliant, really. What I like is Jamie likes playing historical stuff, but he really likes his 40k and his sci-fi stuff, whereas Mel, she likes her fantasy. So we've got the best of everything, if you know what I mean. So we've got fantasy and sci-fi covered, and me with the historical. So we all play each other's sort of game systems and things like that. So yeah, it's great fun, really. I just said I'm very lucky in that sense.
Oh yeah, you are. It took a while to get my wife to even look at tabletop gaming, but she's really enamored with board gaming these days.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about your Monopoly or something.
No.
And I'm talking about full nerd miniature, not miniatures, geeky board games. Like last night we were playing Wingspan. Not sure if you guys are familiar with that one, but it's been on Board Game Geek for the past like 5 years. Is like one of the best board games, and then we're going to be playing Gloomhaven pretty soon, which is also one of those board games too. And I jumped on board the Gloomhaven because I want her to get excited about that, because that's very close to miniature gaming. You know, I'm not sure if you guys have seen Gloomhaven or not.
I've heard of it. I've not played it.
No.
It's like a dungeon crawl.
Oh, so like Descent, or my favorite, Hero Quest.
Oh, Hero Quest, brilliant.
Oh yeah. It's like Descent. Yeah. Now, I haven't looked at the newest Descent though. I've been eyeballing that. Have you seen that?
No, but
I've not had a crack at it. I've just been told it's comparable to the mighty Hero Quest, But dungeon bashes.
Yeah, I used to love playing the old Games Workshop version, which was the Warhammer Quest.
Right. Okay.
Back in the 90s. I'm showing my age.
That's when you had the goblins with the spears, isn't it? They were just stood upright with the spears, wasn't it? And what else you had? You had
Minotaurs.
That's it. The Minotaurs, and the doorways were like skulls across the doors or something like that. When
a skull with wings or something. Yeah, they were sort of like archways. I've seen them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that was a fun game. But yeah, you're right. Hero Quest was like the forerunner of that, though.
Oh man, yeah, it was impressive. Glory on the tabletop, definitely. Bickering. I started playing it with I have a copy of it, and I started playing with my brother and my nephew. He's 7. He'll be 8 this year, and it's just hilarious. Watching them play. My nephew picks the dwarf, and he's just like, he's all about the gold, and he you know what I mean. His father goes into a room and it's full of goblins, and you're like, oh, you'll go help him, and he's like, no, runs for the exit, runs away with all the gold and the treasure, doesn't care. I'm like, yeah, typical dwarf.
Oh boy.
Yeah, entertainment at its finest. But like board game wise, there seems to be, like, I'm not into historical, and I think it's just a case of I landed in Games Workshop's yard in wargaming. I think if I had started off with I honestly do. I think if I had started off with a like historical wargaming club, I would have went a different route at the start. But is it GMT or GMC that tend to make a lot of board games, but they're sort of like simulation combat games? They're like hexes and chits. A lot of those. Do you guys have any experience with them?
Yeah, you want about the Command and Colors systems, GMT, isn't it? Yeah.
I think so.
Richard Bork wrote them in, I think, off the top of my head. Yeah, they're good. I mean, I've played the Ancients, Command and Colors Ancients, and I've also played it was a Plastic Soldier Company. They did a World War One copy of it, and that was good fun. That was with miniatures instead of the chits. It was with miniatures, and you played over the hex board, and that's a good game.
Yeah, for some reason, somewhere in the back of my mind, there's an itch that needs to be scratched in that regard. So I might grab something eventually, or make something for it for BattleTech. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
I'll tell you what, a BattleTech version of that would be really cool. Because like you said,
this is the thing. They've rule sets, but it's mad because it's like, so you've got your tabletop version, and then you can go into like unit command, and then you can go bigger again. There's different like scales of it, you know, into almost like a risk style game where you're controlling sectors and sending units to sectors. You know what I mean? So you can magnify it way down to like unit level, and then divisions or battalions are bigger again. You know what I mean? So, you know, I like that there's games that have that sort of scope. But I think that sort of that strategic sort of maneuvering that you see in a lot of the World War One games of that sort, or even like Eastern Front, the maneuvering, and you're seeing where units are pushing and this crumbles, the flank goes, the overall strategy of it. Like I'm drawn to that. So I don't know. I don't know. Steer away from it, or just, you know, head towards the light.
I don't know. I mean, I've spent many hours over the board of an Axis and Allies table, so I understand the love for that, and it can be a lot of fun, actually, if you have the right group. If you have the wrong people that.
Well, that's the same for any game. You got the wrong people, you know what I mean? It's, you might as well be pulling teeth, mate. You know what I mean? It's not going to, it's not going to pan out too well for you.
Yeah, I was amazed that a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, they came out with a World War One version of Axis and Allies. Did you guys see that?
No, I didn't see that. No,
I've played it. I think. I think I've played it.
You played that?
Yeah, I think I've played the Axis and Allies World War one, and I've played there's like a anniversary edition of Axis and Allies for World War II as well. I've played both of them. I thoroughly enjoy those games, I really do. The whole games. Manufacturing of units, and you know, you're doing research and deciding where to build factories and strategically bombing each other so that, you know, your factories produce less, and all this type of stuff. And the swing in the game, like especially in the Second World War one, where it's like the Axis units have a lot of units, have a lot more miniatures on the table at the start, but their production can't keep up with the losses. Whereas the Allies, it's like, you know, as the war goes on, they just, you know, they say the American economy still was ramping up even near the end of the war. They still could have been out producing. It's just, the numbers are staggering. Like, it's impressive. But yeah, they're good fun. I enjoy those games. There's quite a few like that.
One of my favorite games along the same lines that Avalon Hill came up with, and I still own it, is a game called Samurai Swords. And it's called Akuza these days. And basically, it's the same type of concept. You're raising units like your samurai units and your different Ashiguru and so forth. And but it's got a major difference that makes it more playable. Whereas World War II, you start in the same locations every time. And the Akuza or Samurai Swords game, it starts in a random generation, just like Risk, where you're dealt out a whole bunch of cards, and those are the provinces you're starting out with. And so you could be spread out all over the place, and you got to decide, okay, what am I going to give up, and what am I going to start defending and start advancing from? And it's different every single time you play, because you're it's just a card dealt on the start, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Because that gives you that extra depth of playability, then replayability, doesn't it? So if you know, starting somewhere different and doing something different,
But it has all the different mechanisms of Axis and Allies, where you're building units based off of the land bases that you have, and then you can build the different kinds of units, and also you can make castles where you're at to fortify. And you have 3 different armies that you can go around and do attacking with. And with those armies, you put your units into those armies, and they're led by their different daimios. And every time they're in battle, they increase in experience. So they get better and better as the game goes along. Now, if you see an opponent that has a daimyo that's able to make like 4 or 5 moves a turn, then you're going to be sending a ninja assassin to try to assassinate that guy.
Oh, so there's mechanics to try and redress the balance. I get you.
Yeah.
And so, and it's up to the player to send the assassin. You spend the Goku to do so, to hire the assassin to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. That is really cool. Yeah.
Sounds entertaining, all right.
Yeah.
Paul says, Combat Commander is my favorite Hex Encounter game series.
Good morning, Paul.
Well, hey, how you doing, Paul? I'm not familiar with that, so you'll have to come on sometime in the future, and we'll do a powwow about Combat Commander while we're painting miniatures.
I think the last board game we purchased was owned by Fantasy Flight, was Star Wars Outer Rim.
Oh, wow.
Is that the Bounty Hunter one?
Yeah.
I've seen, picked it up
when
I was in Newcastle. I had a look at it and I was like,
oh man, that is cool. That is some dirty tricks you can play on each other as well.
Yeah.
Really good fun. You've got several. Obviously, each bounty hunter's got their own sort of objectives and that they've got to do and achieve. You start out with a starting ship and a bit of cash, and you go out and you're doing jobs, you're doing assassinations, you're doing capture somebody or delivering supplies or getting supplies. But all the while, you're trying not to get caught by the Syndicate, the Empire, etc., and the rebels. You don't want to get caught with them. You don't want to get caught with other players, and so you're bouncing around the Outer Rim trying to do all these jobs and that, and it's good fun. It really is good fun.
Nice. Yeah, there's a game that's similar to that. It was it came out about 6 or 7 years ago called Firefly, the board game.
Yeah. Firefly, yeah, brilliant game.
I wanted to get a hold of that, but I didn't get around to doing that. Have you played that game?
I have. When it first came out, I was lucky enough to have a little game of that, and I tell you what, I never bought it, and I wish I did. It was one of those games where it just sucked you in. It really did. And it is. There was around that played a game where they obviously copied it from the TV series, and it was so much like you felt like you were a part of the TV series, the way it all interacted together and everything. It was really good.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. If you ever do get a chance of getting it, Bill, I would say get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. At the time, I was collecting Descent. Yeah, I've got all of the second editions of Descent. Now they came out with another edition now.
So what's changing between these editions of the board games? Is there key? Like, is it like with war games? Is there a lot being changed, or is there just minor tweaks, or are some of the game mechanics being changed? Like, what's changing between editions, or is it just like print runs?
Sometimes it's print runs. Sometimes there's sweeping changes. I know one of my favorite board games. I have not gotten the newest edition to because of the fact that it was a Fantasy Flight game called Twilight Imperium. And I've got the third edition of that. And I have all the expansions. So from what I read, the new edition, the fourth edition, is consolidation of all the expansions.
They're being consolidated into the core game itself.
Yeah, so since I was like, I already have the expansions, then I don't have a reason to get that game.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, sometimes there are sweeping changes with these board games. Sometimes it's a consolidation of expansions or whatnot. Yeah, that's one of my favorite games, but I never get it to the table.
It is one of those games. Like, I've only played it once or twice. I think one of the times I played it, I was sort of tagging along with a friend, and he was invited over to a game, and someone had to leave the table. So I sort of inherited a force midway, and from what I understand, you're given an objective, and I think my objective was to take the center or something like that. And I was looking at the forces I inherited, and I was like, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? It's like, he's got some planetary defense here, some planetary defense there, and you're supposed to be pushing for the center. So as soon as I took over, I was like, right, naval ships everywhere, we need a force. But yeah, it's I like those sort of games as well. They are, but like you were saying, Bill, it seems to be one of those games that everyone likes the idea of playing it, but you really sort of have to. It's one of those games where you need to set a day. You know what I mean? You have to get the planets to align and get all the players to agree, and get the permission slips, the day off permission slips off the wife. The other half.
It's got to be a Z in the month.
It's like, kiss them farewell. I'll see you in 24 hours. Good luck in the conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a cracking game. Like, it really is.
And boy, it's funny though, because you're saying that your friend wasn't really setting it up, but the thing is, they never give you enough to really do the missions. And you never will. You have to actually play off the other players, and that's the heart of the game. Is that there's a lot of saber rattling, but if you go totally into military fighting into another player, you're gonna leave yourself exposed to other players attacking you. And so you'll never have enough to actually do like a full-on war. But you gotta rattle that saber and say, "Hey, I've got a big giant ship here. I got a Death Star." Oh!
Use some diplomacy, as they call it. Then, you know what I mean. So the guy to your left, you go chatting to the guy left of him again. You go, right, if I attack that way, you attack that way. I'll see you. Pull a Germany and a Russia maneuver early in the war. We'll split up Poland, mate. Don't worry, you'll be grand. Leave some rear guard forces. Yeah, you can have some great fun. I think Tabletop Simulator is probably the best way to go with it. What do you reckon?
I've not played that yet, so
I've had a go again. I've had a go a couple of times with that, but I can certainly see a lot of different game systems, and that'd be well worth playing on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, especially the ones you don't get the chance to play, like, and they gather dust. I reckon that you'll be able to find individuals on other continents who are just as keen as you, waiting at the chomp. So it'll be like, I reckon that's your best bet, Bill.
They've got a note from their mum.
This is it.
There's something to say about sitting around the table, having the pizza ordered and having the beers out, and just
there is no substitute for that. Yeah, you're right.
Doing that online, it sounds fun, but it just the face to face. Hey, what's the look on his face when I just took over his home planet?
Yeah. I'd more see it as a substitute of if there isn't players in your area, sort of. You know what I mean? Yeah. Get over the constraint to play a game.
I think that is one thing we're quite unique on in our hobby is the fact that as much as what we do with miniatures or board games, as you said, Bill, is more the social interaction. I think that is the most important part for me, anyway, of our hobby, is getting together with people. Like you say, sitting around a table, you're sharing a drink, you're sharing in their experiences as much as they're sharing in yours, and you build that sort of camaraderie, and you're laughing at each other's mistakes and what have you, and then you're taking the highs and the lows with it at the same time. And I think that's what I like about the hobby, is more so than the game. To me, sometimes the game can be the anticlimax. It's getting together with people and sharing in the experiences and that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And you know what, guys? I mean, if you ever find yourself in Tucson, Arizona, I'll set up a game for you guys. I'll fire up the barbecue, smoke some brisket, and then we'll afterwards or before we'll go over to Masco movie set, and check out the movie set from Tombstone. I'm not sure if you've seen that movie yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell.
Yeah, classic film.
That's just down the road from me.
Okay.
You know, it was part of the old Tucson studios, and they filmed like over 80 movies out of that movie set. So it's a Hollywood of the Old West.
Cool.
If you ever get the gumption of coming out here,
Remember in that neck of the woods, Bill, I'll give you a shout.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly.
I've yet to make it over the pond yet, you know.
Now, I will warn you. You're welcome to stay here at my house, and I have a guest room. But my wife collects dolls, and the guest room is lined with 18-inch dolls. So the walls are completely filled. My son is disturbed by it, and I tell you what, he moved out of the house, and then he moved back into the house, and then he moved out of the house, and then he moved back into the house, and then he moved back out of the house, and then my wife was like, "All right, it's my doll room now." And then he took one look at his old bedroom is filled with dolls. He's like, "I'm not moving back in." So when your kids get old enough to move out, you know, and your wife wants to collect dolls, it's a solution.
It works, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I've got it this way, Bill. See, if Jamie moves out, I can then use his bedroom for an extra board games room for another one. So I've got your main board games room. I can then have that as a spare one for doing little skirmishes and that during the winter. More shelving. So I've got it planned, mate. I've got it planned.
Sound like you already have the plans drawn out for, you know.
That's it, man.
Don't worry, son, I'll help you pack your bags. You need help with your deposit? No bother. I'll have the house key as you're leaving there. Thanks. Yeah, no bother.
Hey, there you go. You know, it's still got a bed in there, but you got a bunch of dolls looking at you. So if that's not a thing, then you can certainly crash in our home.
Quite a few people in and around Ireland have been getting cabins, wooden cabins. Do you ever see these?
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of, I mean, potentially you could live in them, like they're that high quality, but for wargaming and for hobby rooms, there's quite a few people have been doing that, just getting wooden cabins sort of pre-made or kits or whatever to get people to install them, and they look pretty decent.
Yeah, you can get more insulated than that now, can't you? Some of those I've seen.
Oh yeah, like literally, they're like you could live in some of them. You know, they're that spec.
Really?
Nice. I would have been a bit nervous of leaving the likes of books and stuff out in sheds, but I was, because in Ireland there's a lot of moisture damage if you're storing anything else, so like your board games and such. You can leave them out in the shed for a winter, but if you go back next summer to pick it up, there's no guarantee that it'll be straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff gets damaged, but apparently these ones are pretty good in that regard. You know what I mean?
A buddy of mine lives in England, has one of those sheds that you're talking about. His YouTube channel is House of Hangus Comics, and he does World War II mainly. His name is Mark. He's a nice guy. He's been a little bit under the weather recently, but
hopefully he feels better soon.
Yeah. So hopefully it gets better. But yeah, just like you said, he's got one of those sheds that he had built in his backyard, or his garden sheds, that's devoted to wargaming. So pretty good setup. But since
Yeah,
I
one
have
of the guys,
sorry,
one of the guys here has one for gaming, and it's literally like you fit in the 6x4 table, and there's still plenty of space. Like he has his shelves for his terrain, you know what I mean, and there's still space to put your, you know, you're not cramped, you know what I mean. It's some of them are pretty sizable, and they cost a pretty penny. I think he told me he paid like 10 grand for it or whatever. But you know, at that stage, I think if you're going the whole hog, you might as well. Obviously, not everyone's going to be in that situation, but if you have the space for it and the cash, like, you know.
I was lucky in our place. I got a garage, and then we had a load of like Leylando trees in our back garden. And they were huge, great things. And then when we moved in, I said to the wife, I said, right, we're going to get them cut down. I said, because they're just unwieldy. Got them out of the way. And it opened up our back garden. I think, blimey, I didn't realize we had this much space. And already I was calculating, right, if I extend on the back of the garage another garage length, there's my war games room. Yeah? So we've got the plans drawn up, thinking, oh, this is a no-go, this ain't going to happen. But it was a goer. So I thought, oh, great, strike while the iron's hot, got the footings all dug out, got it all concreted, got it up to the old, to the sort of rough floor, and then built the frame around it, and all brick and everything. And so, it was all sorted out. So that was all done. Then I thought, okay, we'll do the extension on the back. So I did all the extension work in that and got that out of the way. But now I've got my war games room, 2 tables in there, and it's great. Yeah, absolutely great. So nice. Play on one, I can then do something on the other or put them together. I've still got scope to put a third one in to make a 12x6 if I want it. So, it's like you said, it was either do that or get one of those sheds, as you were saying. So for me, it just made sense just to build it as a proper brick building, like construction.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like obviously that'll last longer than a wooden building. Like apparently, you're guaranteed whatever many years out of them. Take care of them. But yeah, if you have the option for a brick extension in regards to a wargaming room on the shed or the garage, yeah, why not? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it'll make a world of a difference when people have dedicated space for your hobby, because it doesn't overlap then. Whereas me, it's like I have everything in one. It's like my room, my hobby, you know what I mean? Because I rent a room, it's all in one. And it can get a bit of, can get a bit annoying at times when you're falling over stuff. You know what I mean? You've BattleTech miniatures everywhere, and you're trying to use your mouse and keyboard, and there's paintbrushes and snips and bits and bobs everywhere. But yeah, I think I'd reckon. How did it work for you, Lee? Did you find that in regards to painting, when you have a separate area, when there's a dedicated area, a setup that you can just leave, did you find that you got to do more hobby then?
Yeah, basically, obviously the painting room is now was the small room. It's where Jamie obviously was his room when he was a baby, like. And we moved him into, because the spare room, or I say the spare room, the second room in the house, that was our war games room. And I had a 9-foot table in there, and Jamie was in the box room. And
that's a priority straight. I love
it. So anyway, so obviously as you got a bit older and everything, it would say the plans were drawn up to do this extension and that. It was a case of, look, we do it now while he's still quite young. He was about 3, maybe 4, I think, at the time. And we do it now while he's still quite young. We get it all built, then we can move him into the second room. And that's what we've done. And then we just turned the box room into a painting room and a building room. So yeah, having that space just to go in there and say, right, there's a shelf down there. That's where all the projects are in line of what we're doing on the painting tables. Then what we're concentrating on at that time. When that's finished, that goes back onto the shelf, next one over, and so forth. And it does make it a lot easier. And then obviously having your separate room to go out and play in, you can then take it out there, box it all up nice, put it out there, and obviously play when you want to use it. So there was lots of positives with it. But I will say is we obviously, all of us are into the hobby. We've got magazines. I've got a magazine sat next to me now, and there's one in my bedroom. So there are a hobby. You won't escape hobby in this house. It will be hobby somewhere, because that's how much we are into the hobby, all of us.
It's in your blood at this stage. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My setup is completely different from you guys. I out here in the western part of the U.S., our houses are sprawling compared to the other parts of the U.S. So I have a dedicated gaming room, and it's enough space in that room where I can literally put 2 5x8 tables in that room. But I only have one. I have a 5x8 table. I could make a second one, but I have display cases all around the walls. And I filled up one of them with all sorts of terrain. And then I've got a wet bar on one side with all sorts of booze, with whiskey and rum and all sorts of things like that. And then I've got a refrigerator and ice maker machine in there, and also a Keurig coffee maker in there too. And this is adjacent to my porch where I have all my barbecue equipment. So when I host the game, I make sure everyone's
it's full on, isn't it?
This is it.
Yeah, and then but that's just the gaming room. Right adjacent to that room is like my normal hobby station. I'm not in that hobby station now because right now what's happening is my wife is working from home because of this pandemic thing. So she's in the gaming room using the gaming table as her giant desk right now. I don't do that with my job because I'm a automobile insurance adjuster, so I go out to the field and stuff. So
It's a bit more hands-on.
Yeah. So, but the house also has on top of that a workshop. Now, unfortunately, that's not that part of the house is separated. So there's no air conditioning in that unit. That room was made as a workshop for like woodworking shop, full on woodworking tables and so forth. And it came with a 4x8 table already in there. And that's where I do all my like terrain building, and I've got an entire 3D printing shop there. So
nice.
That's where my farm of 3D printers are, and then I've got my woodworking stuff in there too. Hence my sophisticated painting. I
tried to get some use out of my GW paint pots, but I don't really use them anymore. You know what I mean? Bit of blue texture.
Yeah, it works. It works.
This is it.
Yeah, I've got all sorts of room out here, and then because she's in the other room, I don't want to disturb her with talking, so I went into the living room, and that's why it's not really the lighting's not the best, but I got this dedicated light here to paint under. So
It's good though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different world out here because of all the space.
That's one thing we did notice from the couple of times we visited, come across the pond and visited America. It was just the sheer volume of space between houses, the roads, where the pavements are to the roads is like you can breathe. You know, whereas over here it's everyone's all cramped. It's all like Lilliput. It's you know it is that's freedom of space.
I think the term you're looking for is cozy or snug.
Oh, yeah. Lilliput.
Yeah.
And that tug or cozy is when I go to the East Coast or to California, where they're all crammed in there, and I'm like,
is that right?
It's out of control.
Bill, that's a lot of space compared to what we've got, mate.
But sometimes I'll drive like because of the distances out here in the desert. Sometimes I'll drive up to 80 or 90 miles to get to a game. So if I've got like my friend that was on here last week, Tim, he last game I played with him was up in Phoenix, which is 80 miles from here. It was a lot of fun, but the travel time is quite the distances are probably enormous compared to what you guys have to.
You're sort of factoring about a couple of hours either way, either end of the day, sort of thing for traveling either way. So yeah, it's quite a long day in it for a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to make it as comfortable as possible for anyone that wants the game here, because I know that a lot of times they're traveling from a long distance away.
Well, that's the way to be, though. You know what I mean, Bill? That is the way to be. It's like if you know that someone has to spend an hour of their time just to get to you to have a game, be
worthwhile, wouldn't it?
Yeah, be a great host, because they'll they'll want to come back. There's nothing worse than going out of your way to play a game with someone, and you just don't have a good time. Yeah, maybe it's the first time you've met with them, or whatever. Something doesn't work out, doesn't pan out for you. You know what I mean? You're not going to be as quick to say yes to play a game. Whereas but it sounds of it, Bill, it'd be hard, you'd be hard pressed trying to get people back out the door. You know what I mean? They'd be well fed.
I was just thinking, got the whiskey there, you got the smoker going on outside, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm game. Well, sign me up.
Yeah, because I've been on a diet for the last few months. Actually, I've been on a keto diet, so I've been eating a lot of smoked meat and barbecuing because.
Oh, you're teasing me now, Bill.
Well, I'm not sure if you noticed in my videos. 5 months ago, I was 50 pounds heavier. So.
Oh, well done, man.
Yeah, what a mate. Yeah.
So yeah, it's I've given up beer, but I can still have like vodka and stuff like that. So there's no carbs in vodka.
No.
This is it.
That's quality. That's good, mate. Yeah, that's good.
But I try to be a good host. But there's a lot of not wargaming, but gaming stores here in Tucson, though.
Oh, that's good.
It's.
And is wargaming very? Obviously, you've got a lot of stores, as you said, but is the actual community, the wargaming community, board game community, is it strong? In Arizona, is it how popular is it? Overall.
Board gaming is extremely popular. Wargaming, miniature gaming, I'm a minority.
Right.
I know it's rather odd having all the board gamers, but people that play Descent or the Euro games, or Fantasy Flight games or whatnot, Asmodee and so forth. Those board gamers are for every miniature gamer, there's at least 30 board gamers here.
I mean, that's quite a big gap, isn't it? Yeah, it's quite.
Yeah.
You know what to do, Bill. You need to convert someone to the cause. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
I got just the thing.
I'll paint a few of them miniatures for you. You know what I mean? Here, look, there's some paints for you. There's a brush. You know what I mean? Guide them towards the right direction, shall we say?
Well, that's a problem. Is I think that a lot of them look at the hobby side of our hobby, the putting together stuff, and they're only interested in the gaming part because they're coming from the board game side, and it's hard to say, oh yeah, I painted all these miniatures myself, and that turns them off because they just want to open up a box and play. Immediately out of the box. They're not interested in the modeling aspect.
But is that because? I mean, obviously, I don't know about your video game network is out there. Is it? Do a lot of them do a lot of video gaming? So it is plug in the PlayStation or the Xbox and play straight away. Is it that sort of mentality? Like, it's
Probably, that's my son's. My son moved out, but I there's only one war game that he would play, miniature gaming, and that would be BattleTech. He would never play. I try to get him to play Games Workshop games. I try to get him to do all sorts of other things, but he wouldn't have anything to do with it. But we after over time lost interest in BattleTech because he just wanted to do the console gaming all the time.
Yeah.
And
you're going into what you could get him back in with some MechWarrior 5 maybe, or
yeah,
a bit of crossover between the two.
I'm sure. And I try to show him that stuff, but he's I don't know. I'm not going to be that parent to say you will do this. I mean,
I find that about. I mean, again, I don't know what the community is like in the States compared to it is over here, but over here, certainly, what I've noticed over the years, you sort of see where the kids have got into the hobby because obviously the dad plays, or the family plays, or whatever, and then obviously they'll go through the schooling and everything. They go through their later teenage years. They meet a partner. They go off and have their time in universities, colleges, and what have you, and you find that they end up coming back to the hobby later on. So sort of like into their early 30s, they'll come back. So they sort of have their time in the wilderness, and then sort of, like you say, come back into the hobby, and they'll do sort of different things. I've certainly noticed a lot of that over here.
Yeah, and that might be the thing with my son. Right now, he's not interested in miniature gaming at all. So I'm like, okay. I mean,
you just got to give him that space and that, and just let him sort of see what he's going to do. Like,
yeah, and he may come back to it. If he does, that's fantastic. If he doesn't, that's his own choice. I mean, I'm not going to force anything on anyone.
You'll just have to write him out of the will. But these things happen.
It's just a small thing, isn't it? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I kept on telling him, I've got a first edition Rogue Trader Imperial Guard army.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be worth something. And he's like, he doesn't appreciate it. I'm like, okay. I don't even know if that's worth anything nowadays. Because last time I brought that out and took it to a game shop, they almost chased me off saying that those weren't Games Workshop miniatures. I'm like, oh, yes, they are.
Yeah, you were probably fielding miniatures that were older than the employees at that point.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly.
They didn't recognize them as Games Workshop. I was like, oh, okay. Had to turn over the bases and show them, hey, that's Games Workshop.
We was at Nottingham last week, Warhammer World, and I do like visiting Games Workshop's headquarters. They got a lovely bar there. Bugman's Bar is a lovely bar. The gaming hall is really good. But one thing they have developed a little bit more now is their exhibition centre. And again, you go in there and you can see miniatures right from when it was just Citadel as a company, and then all the way through to what they do, obviously, today. And to see that evolution of design, the likes of what the Perrys used to do, etc., and all that, it's fantastic, and I do admire that from that company. And it's just a shame that I know Games Workshop's a massive company, and it's just a shame that we haven't got other companies are like that, if you know what I mean, in that same vein at the moment. And whether we will or not, I don't know, but it'd be lovely to have it, to see ranges of companies evolve over the years and what they've been doing and that, So, yeah, it is a good place to visit. If you ever get a chance to come to the UK, go to Games Workshop in headquarters in Nottingham.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they will adapt to the growing 3D printing community. I'm wondering if in the future they'll ever sell STL files.
It's funny you should ask that question, because I've asked that question a few times in the conventions and of Games Workshop conventions I've been to. And they do a lot of 3D printing themselves. a lot of 3D rendering and 3D printing to get the miniatures what they've got today. I did ask the question about would they ever just do SDL files, and the answer is no. They do not want anyone to change them, and I think that's what they would be frightened of. And I can sort of understand what they're saying, but on the other side of the coin is wouldn't you want to get it out there for more people? Do you know what I mean? I don't quite. I suppose I don't know the company, so I don't understand all the intellectual properties and things like that. I'm just a gamer. I just want to see things out there that everyone can get a chance of having, if you know what I mean. So, but I suppose if I own the business and whatever, I want to protect it. So, yeah, I can sort of see their argument. But I would, but the gamer's head on me sort of says, let's just get it out there and have a bit of fun with it. Do you know what I mean? So, and share it for everybody.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking is that eventually they're gonna, as 3D printing becomes more and more popular, it's gonna bite into their profit margin, I would imagine.
And there's some lovely sculpts out there, 3D prints now. There's a couple of them with some really nice stuff.
A present.
Oh yeah, I was. I'm going to be getting a resin printer pretty soon. Right?
Oh, you're on the thing, huh?
Hello.
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi everyone.
So you didn't
I'm
realize
embarrassed.
No worries. So say hello. Hey, honey.
Huh?
This is Andrea. This is my friend Lee, and this is my friend Dwayne.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi everyone. Hiya. How are you?
I was so excited. My Amazon order came in.
Hey.
She's been shopping for the next board games too, trying to get me to look at all of them.
Yeah, you got to make a decision.
Yeah.
Don't be talking to me about Post. I'm getting very jealous. I'm still waiting for my wave 2 of the Battletech Kickstarter to come in. Hopefully several boxes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, biding me time on that one. Just waiting.
You'll have to do a live stream unboxing all of it then.
I did for the first wave. I did an unboxing for the first wave, but I'll do a second one for the crack. Just
I did my first Kickstarter order last year, and they've delayed the order already.
Yeah.
So it won't be released until January of 2022, and that's the Blood and Plunder black
flag. Yeah. The plastic pirates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pirates. So.
Yeah, we jumped in on that one. Yeah, we jumped in on that one. It was it looked like a good Kickstarter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, definitely. We've done both of those before for Blood and Plunder, and it's a great game, really good fun.
Yeah, a buddy of mine I was just talking to this morning is very much deep into Blood and Plunder. He's been doing the pirate gaming for almost a decade now.
Right.
So he's got. I was at his house, and he's got about 20 or 25 ships.
All
done up and stuff. So he has a gigantic event each November where he hosts. Oh boy, there's at least 15 people that show up to this pirate event, and it's like a pirate mayhem, because he sets up like about 5 different tables, and each table is like a different region of the Caribbean, and then
that's cool.
There's different portions of each table that will say. This is going to Jamaica, or this is going to, and then another region, another table would be the Jamaica area, and then another one would be Nassau table, and then the different factions are in charge of the different areas too. So there'll be like a Spanish table, or a pirate cove, or a native jungly table, and then it gets crazy because he's hosting it, and he runs the crazy stuff that happens.
Yeah.
So like if there's a lot of activity on a certain table, he'll have a kraken come up and start attacking ships, or he's got a ghost ship like the Black Pearl come out and start attacking people and stuff.
That's cool. That was really good. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a hoot, you know.
Yeah, it definitely sounds it. It sounds really cool.
You know, I about 5 or 6 years ago, I did a suit when I was first beginning YouTube. I did like a pseudo battle report of my experience in one of his things. So, you know, that's one of my very first videos that I made. So,
yeah, that's really good.
It's a hoot. We only have those things not very often around here, but I get jealous of you guys on your side of the world because I see these salute conventions and so forth, and I go, wow.
Yeah, we were lucky in the sense that we have a lot of conventions, obviously pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic. But what I'd say, having gone to see, our salute is an equivalent of your Historicon, I would say. But the problem with our salute is it's only one day, so it becomes a trade fest.
Yeah, that's really, yeah.
And so having gone to Historicon, and it's over the 4 days, and the trade hall is only open for certain times during the day. The focus is on the gaming, which makes perfect sense. If you guys are traveling sort of hundreds of miles to go to a convention, you wanted to make it a lasting event, and I think that's what we're missing out on over here. And I did mention it when I was at Historicon. I did say, you know, a couple of guys would say to me, "You got the best shows because you got every weekend or whatever." I said, "Yeah, but you can have them every weekend, but you can have every one, but they're not that good, if you know what I mean. I'd rather come to one that's regional based, and you go there over a few days, and you can get all the games in. You can go to a bit of trading. You can you can do a bit of modeling. You can do everything, and that's what we don't have. Yeah. Ours are purely trade, and the games are there just as eye candy as you're walking around.
Yeah.
I would rather see it more of an event, you know, than what it is now.
I don't know. I see different events, and especially for my my friend Mark. If you've ever seen the House of Hengus YouTube channel,
no, so check that out.
He's got fantastic World War II setups. It's 15 millimeter scale, but he does he says that they're like movie sets that he sets up. And he's currently doing like a Tobruk type of campaign, and he had a scenario where he had like a retreat out of the port.
Yep. And
he literally built a freighter in 15 millimeter scale.
Nice.
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
That has these troops trying to load on while planes are trying to strafe them and stuff. It's amazing what he does. And then another friend of mine out there in the UK, David, he's not as prolific with YouTubing, but he does a lot of those shows that are out there.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 3 years ago he actually got awarded the best presentation.
Dave Doherty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Dave. Yeah, I know Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, and setups are awesome. I mean, he would have joined us today, but he's in France now.
His colonial setup is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And he's at the moment putting together a Vietnam table and that ready for taking around the shows. So that looked really cool.
And he's got. If you ever ask him to show you his Western setup, his Western town is amazing.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, Bill. Is guys like Dave and the chap you're saying about the Tobruk setup over here, you might have 1, maybe 2 days to show that off. If it was done over a longer period of time and the show was longer, the convention was longer, look how many more people could enjoy that table.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. That's what I think we're missing over here. Yes, it's great to have the shows that we do, but let's just Salute shouldn't be just 1 day.
Yeah.
That should be 2 or 3 days, because it gets everybody from Europe coming over. So it's still a lot of people traveling a great distance to come to that one show for that 1 day. You know, it's a shame. I know it's cost and everything else, hire the halls, and I understand all of that, but I still think they could fill it. I really do. You know, and you give people more flexibility in being able to come as well.
Yeah. And we have a gaming convention out here in Arizona, in Tucson at least, but it's a board gaming convention, you know, and because the board gaming community is outnumbers us way, and I try to set up games there, but they tuck us over into like a side corner.
You almost want to get those miniature games that are miniature stroke board games, so there's that crossover, and then that way sort of get people trapped, or not say trapped, but introduced in that way to miniature gaming.
Quick, get the bear trap.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that when it comes to the board gamers, a lot of the board gamers are not your typical gamers that you see at a gaming store. They're I have to say are more mature aged people, more professional, out of college, and I think that appeals to folks of our age and slightly younger, because of the fact that our time is limited. And when I was young, I could paint up a 700. 20 years ago, I could paint up a 700 miniature Zulu army, in a matter of months. But these days,
but going back full circle with that though, Bill, do you think then that with wargaming at the moment is there's a lot of miniature skirmish games coming out that are only, like you said, a handful of figures, maybe up to 40 figures per side, for that reason? Is that time factor, not just for new people coming into the hobby, but also people like us who may not have that time to paint up these large armies anymore?
I think it's a combination. I mean, us old timers, I reminisce about the times when I used to stand over a board where hundreds of Napoleonic miniatures were on the table. And I miss those days. But these days, I just don't have the ability of doing that. But I contradict myself because I'm in the middle of painting for the Battle of Saratoga. So. So we'll see what happens, and that's why I've got this thing going on here now. Is that it forces me to sit down and paint.
Yeah,
it forces me to go. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna get this done, and I also these guys here are gonna be done by a certain time because of the fact that it's part of a competition. Now my paint jobs are terrible. So I know that I will not be the winner of this competition.
But at the end of the day, though, Bill, you're having fun doing it. That's all that matters, mate. You're getting something from it. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win all around, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm just it's why I focus on building terrain as much as I do, because I'm such a terrible painter.
Well, even a badly painted miniature is better than an unpainted one, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I figure is when I go into public and I set up a game, um, I I go on the way of Dave in his setups, and I try to do them as grand as possible.
Yeah, as like I said to you earlier on, the Wild West setup you had, recently you posted out, and that was really excellent. I enjoyed sort of looking at little bits and pieces of it, like there's little cameos in there. That was really good.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate that, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to make that as enticing to my wife too, because if it's cool looking to her, then
Yeah.
she'll be more likely to get into it.
Yeah.
She's not into the military thing, so doing the straight up World War II or toy soldiers isn't her thing. But if I'm painting up an entire gang of women to do shooting in the Wild West is not her thing either. But it's
Have you tried? It's just I don't know if you have or not. Have you tried Pulp Alley?
Pulp Alley.
Yeah.
I played it once with my friend Tim. It's okay. Um, I think I prefer the was it Fistful of Dice?
Yeah.
The mechanics of Fistful of Dice to the Pulp Alley series, but I've only played it once, so I can't really make a good decision. But I had more fun with the Fistful of Dice. But
I've done some live videos with Dave from Pulp Alley, Dave Phipps, and thoroughly enjoyed the games that I've played with him, certainly on his channel and that. It's good fun, and again, sets itself to any sort of genre that you want to play. I mean, one I've thought about doing with it is using it for Doctor Who. So I think that'd be really cool. Have the TARDIS appear and the Doctor running around trying to do something.
yeah. I've been eyeballing the new David McCullough game set in the Napoleonic period.
Yeah. Yes.
With a silver bayonet.
Bill Bennett. Yeah. That does look cool. Yeah. Got all these Dracula sort of these vampires and that peering, and that looks really cool. It does look good.
It doesn't fit.
Oh.
At least I can't figure it out.
But I want to set that game up in 1812.
Yes.
And then what I mean by that is over on this side of the continent.
Yeah.
And I think that would be kind of fun because I got some American Gothic horror stuff already painted up. The Headless Horseman. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got witches and I thought that would be kind of a fun type of thing to do with the American Gothic thrown into that.
It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a hoot do an American version of that game, and set in the 1812, or maybe since I'm doing this period, maybe doing the
why not?
Revolution,
definitely, why not?
And maybe augment those rules for a slightly different genre. It probably wouldn't be too much of a hassle,
Not really, no. I wouldn't have thought so. I think other than that, or somebody might come up with a port for it anyway. So yeah, I think it'd work for anything. That sort of Force the Musket era.
Because there's for the American Revolution, obviously you have the British involved. You have Americans involved, but they're not a faction in the game. But the French were obviously involved, so I can use the French stats and so forth. And then, of course, the Spanish were also involved towards the south in the American Revolution. They weren't directly involved with what we were doing. They were just capitalizing on a distracted England.
Trade routes.
So, I mean, and a lot of people don't realize the Spanish had a lot of activity going on during the American Revolution that contributed to our victory, more or less, because of the fact that Britain was distracted because of the fighting in the Caribbean.
Yes.
And the Dutch were involved with that too, I believe.
Yeah. Dutch was definitely involved. And basically, all the major players were involved because obviously it's the major trade route. Obviously through the Carolinas and the Indies and that up through. So
Yeah. So a lot of the factions that are in the main book can be played.
I think so.
I just have to augment the American faction. I'll have to look at that and see what I can come up with.
Yeah, I think it could work quite well, and I think for the 1812 or even like you said, the Revolutionary period, you could sort of look at the perhaps the Prussians or the Russians, well mainly the Prussians, I would think, for your sort of 1879 era American, where it's gone the full sort of continental colonial army, with the reform, because you could still have some militia that could be like your land there. And then your regulars are your Prussian regulars sort of thing. So you have got some sort of mix of troops in there which could potentially fit that, and then just come up with the narrative rules to suit.
There's some American units that are unlike anything that was on the European theater. And I'm thinking of the Kentucky Rifles. They're completely different.
Prussian Jaegers.
Well, they're the Kentucky Rifles were obviously all armed with rifles, but what made them completely different was they were dragoons. So they're all mounted, and then they would dismount and do their rifle stuff, and then get on their horses if the guys with the bayonets got too close.
You don't want that. You don't want that.
And then they'd boogie out because those rifled muskets they were using were civilian muskets or civilian rifles, so they didn't have the fittings for the
bayonet. No.
Bayonet or the. I should say that you guys had the swords connected to yours, right?
I mean the light infantry.
The swords were connected instead of the bayonet.
No, I mean the light infantry. Only light infantry had that. Yeah, the regulars, and we had the 18-inch bayonet.
Yeah. But the Kentucky Rifles are kind of an oddball unit that would be kind of fun in the field. But but the American Revolution, I can a lot of units. I was thinking if Americans could be played as Prussians.
I think that's probably just off the top of my head thinking about how they would create the stats for them, and what I would say probably the Prussians would be more the closest ally to what you're trying to do with that.
Because the Prussian line would be like the Continentals, and then the Landwehr would be like the more militia type units.
Yeah.
So maybe
and like you said, your Jaegers could be your mounted riflemen, as you were saying. They're just a dragoon rifles, as you said. So that could work.
And I don't even know if they have mounted troops in that game though. So I saw the blurb on just this last week on War Games Illustrated YouTube channel. And it struck my attention. I was like, that looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I was on North Star the other week, actually, when it was a couple of months ago when it was first advertised, and I thought, that sounds really different. An historical period set in the sort of a Cthulhu-style setting, and that really cool.
Oh, they got Cthulhu stuff in there too?
I reckon it was all vampires and bits and pieces so far, and if you read the blurb on North Star's site, it alludes to a lot more. This is just the start.
Well, Innisfith is in Connecticut, isn't it? Or is it Rhode Island?
I don't know. Yeah.
Innismith, And of course, obviously, Lovecraft was a Connecticut person, right? So hey, there you go.
There's hope.
But yeah, but just that's my problem is I go shiny, ooh shiny, and I look at the new
I
things.
mean, we're all guilty for that, Bill. We're
Yeah.
definitely all guilty for that.
And I still have all these unpainted. I have about a dozen unpainted battle mechs that I need to paint up too. I don't know.
The
what I'm
pile of
gonna
shame
do.
is ever growing. It is
Yeah,
it's a hungry beast.
yeah. I mean, and it's gonna grow exponentially once I get a resin printer. I've been looking at those samurai miniatures from my mini factory, and boy, that looks so fantastic. All my samurai are mounted individually for skirmish fighting, but if I have a 3D printer, I can maybe start mounting them for Hail Caesar rules.
Yeah.
And do straight up battles with the samurai. It's gonna be a lot. Gonna be a hoot.
That's a lot of painting, Bill.
Yes, it is.
That's a lot of painting, mate.
Yeah, and I just got these war painter paints, but I've been eyeballing a company called Scale 75.
Oh, beautiful paints.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I want to get a hold of some of those things. In particular, I haven't jumped on the GW contrast paints yet, but Scale 75 makes their own version called Instant Color.
Yeah. Which
is supposed to be the same thing, but the major difference is it's in a dropper bottle instead of the GW.
Yeah.
Dropper bottles, man. Definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that would be something. The next branch out that I'm gonna do is probably towards Scale 75.
I think contrast is a lot of there's good and bad press for contrast. Personally, I think it's got its uses definitely for doing certain things. I don't know if you've used it at all or anything like that, but
no, I haven't.
As I said, it's got its uses. We used it for certain things. Doing the clone army for Star Wars Legion, that was done with all contrast and a bit of highlighting, and then the droids was majorly all contrast with a bit of washing. So again, certain things I think it lends itself. Certain colours are very bad, and some are good. How that scales with Scale 75, I don't know. We've only used their normal paints and that for them, but yeah.
I think it's funny how they label it on their website, though. The Instant Color. Have you seen what they label their Instant Color?
No, I've not seen that. I don't. No.
They sell them in groups based on the colors.
Yes, so that's how they do their normal paints as well, mind. It's exactly the same.
So the Instant Color for reds, they have that listed as their health potions. And the Instant Color for the different shades of blue, they have listed as the mana potions. and so forth. They call them the different fantasy type of genre.
Yeah.
I think that's a hoot. I mean,
yeah.
So what?
I said, I think again, going back to GW's contrast, I wouldn't want to use them for historical, if that makes sense. For a fantasy sci-fi genre, I think they work fine. But for historical, I don't think that's only a personal thing.
Really?
Like I said, there's probably other people out there who say, "No, I've used it for historical. I've done this, that, and the other." That's great. Good luck. It's just not for me. For me, I think they work well for fantasy and sci-fi. And by the sounds of what you're saying, reading out those titles there, I think that's probably the same.
Well, I mean, it might be the case, but what I'm going to be painting with them are samurai, which are very colorful.
Yeah, exactly. And then they do, and like I said, you get the right undercoat, and they say with the contrast is they are quite bright going on. A lighter undercoat, they will be bright.
And I'm also going to be, and I know my channel is called Lance Connect 1525, and I keep taking out my Lance Connects, painting a few, and then putting it back on the shelf. But eventually, I'm going to have an army painted of those guys because I have them on my shelf of shame.
On your to-do list.
It's a massive project. If you know what Lance Connects are supposed to look like,
Yeah.
if I ever get that Scale 75 collection, that will be a project for my Lance Connect. That's for sure. But I think that a lot of historical stuff can be colorful.
It can. You're right. It definitely. I think it's only the more sort of the 20th century where it does change. Obviously, more drabby colors. But like you said, prior to that, it is very colourful. Doesn't matter where you are around the world. There is a lot of colour in people's armies and uniforms and that. You know.
I'm not. Do they work well with mechanical things? Like, have you, Dwayne? Have you tried them with
If you
BattleTech?
bear with me 2 seconds, I'll go and get you a tank that was done with contrast.
Oh, really?
I haven't tried them with the contrast mix, but I've seen tutorials. They work really well. Contrast tends to work well in highly detailed areas. It tends not to work well on very large, like massive panels. So big flat paneled, like a Land Raider, or something with a lot of flat panels. But like the likes of mechs, because of the scale of them, like I use my model washes, Layhole model washes, but like the contrast, if you just did this in your undercoat and then put the contrast on, it works really well because of all the armor panels and because of the scale of them. They're so close together. You know what I mean? It's a highly detailed surface. Yes, there are angles and some panels, but they're very small. So I've seen tutorials of them using contrast. I haven't really dabbled with contrast a lot myself. I do own several of them. But that looks half decent.
So that's
me is give you an example on that.
That's contrast, and then obviously the camera won't pick up all the detail. But if you go into the channel, you'll see a bit more detail, and then obviously dry brushed and that on top of that again. So you're using it as basically as an undercoat. So there's that one.
How did you find it with all the large panels? Was there issues with pooling?
No, just basically you just got to work with it really quick.
Right, all right, yeah.
Fantastic.
That's the other one.
The Droid Army.
But yeah, like I said, it's got its places, got its uses. Just got to play with it and find what it is how it's going to work for you. As you're saying, doing like your panel work on there could work. But I find once you put it on, you've got to give it another depth. You've got to give it something as a highlight or a wash to get it into the recesses to darken it down. Because, but I also think the undercoat you use your primer. I think that is the key.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it has to be smooth, really smooth.
Yeah. Thin and smooth, definitely.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Like a white primer. You can't do it with a grey primer.
You can do it with a grey.
You could do it with grey, yeah.
But what you'll end up with is a harder colour. Yeah. If you do it with a white, it'll be very bright. If you do it with like a bone, beige or a bone, you'll have a softer colour. So it's finding the colour balance of your undercoat and how it's going to end up looking. A good tip is to get an old figure or an old sprue frame, spray it up, and then just try several different things and see what works and what
free Napoleonics from Wargaming Illustrated. I mean, I use them as me. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All these War of the Roses stuff and Napoleonics videos are sparking my interest too, but I figure American Revolution is about as close to Napoleonics as I'll do these days.
Yeah.
The War of the Roses. Well,
That's if you've seen our latest video, Bill. That's where I'm going.
yeah, I
next.
saw that. Yeah, you're jumping in on that, but you're also jumping in on Civil War.
I'm a big Civil War fan, mate. My passion for wargaming is the American Civil War. Always has been. Hence the reason why we visited the States a couple of times, so I can tour a lot of the big battlefields and some of the minor ones. I study a lot of the American Civil War, so yeah. I do. We've got 28mm armies. I've got some 15mm, and obviously now we're using some of the epic scale and now into playing Altar of Freedom to play more strategic level game.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So you're probably familiar with the different units of the Civil War, then, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so I was in the 29th Infantry Division.
Mm-hmm.
The 111th Field Artillery Battery. But we were part of the 116th Regiment. Not sure if you're familiar with that.
No,
Okay.
No.
They ran with a different name. They were a brigade in the Civil War under Jackson, and they're called the Stonewallers.
So yeah, now you say that, yeah.
So you've heard of the Stonewallers?
Stonewallers, yeah.
And in World War II, they're known for being the first wave on Omaha Beach.
The 29th, yeah. Because you had the blue and the grey.
Yep, that's
patch on the left, yeah.
Blue and gray yin yang.
Yin yang, that's it, yeah.
But yeah, I just pulled the lanyard. I was a gunner, 155mm howitzer. So.
Pack the punch.
Yeah. But yeah, I wasn't one of the infantrymen. But we were supporting them, yeah. So
that's what it's all about. Support, mate. Don't matter. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, king of battle, raining down. They said that in World War II, when it comes to combat, the most casualties were attributed to artillery than any other arm of. So you know that's
quite a lot, isn't it? When you think about it, you know, how many rounds were fired.
Yeah,
and that, you know. So.
I did a little bit of stuff that was near the infantry, like spotting stuff. I got to do a forward observing type of stuff, but I mainly did gunnery stuff. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good.
So using math to kill people.
Yeah.
See, kids, math is fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I mean, for me, the American Civil War has always been a fascination, really.
Yeah.
Just the whole aspect of it, you know, and also the little known fact, which is probably not taught as much, is the impact that France and the UK and Britain would have had. You know, there was what 35,000 British soldiers ready to march down from Canada. You know, there was a French fleet ready to sail across to relieve the blockade. It was not just in America. That war was happening. It was happening to Europe and around the world. So, and that's the aspect that gets missed, if you know what I mean. So,
I think that was a Southern fantasy. It's a Southern pipe dream. To be honest with you, Queen Victoria would never back a country that supported slavery.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't have happened. But if you think, oops, not the camera. But if you think about it, I mean, we're all talking hindsight here, you know. The biggest fear was, from the Americans' perspective, when a lot of reading I've done about it, is they didn't want Britain to come down from Canada, take Washington.
Yeah.
That's what they didn't want. You know, no one wanted that because obviously potentially then there would be another uprising and so forth. So who knows what could have happened? We're all talking hindsight here, but it's definitely fascinating how potentially it affected Europe and how big it affected Europe as well as it did obviously over in the States themselves.
And I think there was one major thing that would that most European countries gave pause to before jumping on board with the battles and wars of the Civil War, and that's trying to transport troops from Europe to North America.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be fighting alongside the Confederates, you're going to have to contend with the Union Navy. And that Navy had the newest technology available in ironclad technology. Before the American Civil War, there were no ironclads. No nation on the planet had ironclad ships before that.
No.
And the Union Navy had the most amount of ironclads at that time. You'd have to get through the ironclads as well as the normal ships. And that would not be really a possibility, I don't think. Because every single port was covered by a
blockade. Yeah, it was blockaded. Yeah, it was definitely.
And the blockade was not just the regular ships, but the ironclad ships there too. So it would be very tough. You'd have to do a negotiation with Spain or what is it? Did France have control of Mexico at that time?
I think they did, didn't they? Let's have a look. You're definitely right. Spain would have been involved.
But France, if they were were in control of Mexico with the Napoleon III type adventure.
Yeah.
I mean, they would probably have the only way of, coming in through Texas. But even that would be a tough way to get into the war, because that's a supply line that would trail
62.
62. That's when they got
French had. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Now, in wargaming terms, there is a movie called Major Dundee.
Yeah.
And I think that would be fantastic to play in a wargaming setting, because you've got Confederates and Union troops fighting each other, and then you've got French troops, and you've got Apaches and
everybody
and Mexicans, which is a complete that is a movie that I wish would be turned into a war game. Because that's just crazy talk,
I recently bought the latest edition, or the new edition of Pony Wars. It was out in probably the late 80s, early 90s originally, and then it went underground sort of thing, and now it's been revised and republished. And that is basically it's Pony Wars B Trooping Coming Back is the title. And again,
give me a minute, and I'll show you that first edition.
Oh, you've got it, have you?
Yeah.
I think I've got most of the base coat sorted for this.
Yeah, it looks good what you've been doing. I've been sort of keeping an eye on what you've been doing. So
I think it's a bit late for me. I'll do the washes another time. Yeah.
There he is. That's the ones. Yeah, that's them. Yeah.
So
coming back. Yeah. Basically, they got the new hardback book out now, sort of A4 size.
Oh, really?
And a deck of cards and everything. It's done through Bacchus Miniatures, and they've got a Facebook page for Pony Wars and that, and everyone's jumping on board with it. Yeah, it's worth a look, mate. Worth a look.
Because this one doesn't have cards.
No.
There's no cards in this game at all, so I don't know how.
What he's done, he's taken the activation out of that and made it into cards. Have I got it here? Hang on, it's just next to me actually. Just grab me 2 seconds.
Got plenty of charts.
Yeah, you have. There's definitely plenty in there. Come out here. There it is. That's the book. And that's the cards. Right, there we are.
Yeah, this is a relic.
There we are.
Yeah, this is a relic from
Oops, can't wait. That's
from
your
years ago.
that's your book.
Wow, that's nice looking. Does it say second edition on it?
This is just an updated. It's exactly the same rules. It's just updated into a larger format. That's all it is. It's exactly the same.
Huh.
And then the card deck is you get a deck of cards, and in there is obviously all say your activations. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got events, US activations, for argument's sake. There's loads of different things that'll appear. An ambush cardlet. And then wagon train event. And you just play out whatever it is in the rule book.
Nice. Yeah. I played this about almost 25 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew it was probably about that late 80s, early 90s it was out. I can remember that then.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's fun. Do you plan on doing that in the near future, or?
Yeah, probably. That's Wars of the Roses first.
Okay, all right.
That's the plan first.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I'm after I paint this regiment up, I'm gonna switch gears and work on terrain some more. I have an off and on terrain project of building bocage terrain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna probably do that until I get bored with it and then go on to something else.
Oh, that's cool.
But, yeah, I hope to get this done soon. These guys are turning out pretty good. So
how many you actually building up, Bill? How many you doing?
Yeah, this is an actual unit that was in the Battle of Saratoga. So I intend on painting more units from that battle.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna. I was thinking about mounting them for black powder. These are the Perry miniatures.
Yeah.
Although a friend of mine wants to play Sharps Practice, so I might just do them individually. So if that's the case, I'll probably mount them on squares.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then
or put them in right on round bases and put them in sabot trays.
Yeah.
Sabot movement trays.
I think it'll look nicer on the GW squares, because then they'll rank up closer together. It'll look like a formed unit that way. That's what I'll probably wind up doing, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, Pony Wars. I haven't thought of that game.
Hang on, look, you get another idea.
Yeah.
Got that shiny moment going on.
Boy. Yeah, I got this because in this area in Arizona, we got I got to go to a couple of different sites here. One of the sites was a site where the U.S. cavalry got ambushed by Apaches, and that's about 50 miles south of here.
All right. Okay.
So the actual battles in this occurred out here out here in the West. So that's one reason why I picked it up. but didn't get around to painting up the miniatures for it. So yeah, it's one of those things. You buy miniature rules because you go, ooh, shit.
Yeah, I love collecting rules. Just to sort of look at them, read them, and then I'll just put them on the shelf. And
so my next project, another project I'm doing is a Blood and Plunder. I'm gonna probably gear up once I get closer to when I'm gonna get the black flag stuff in, and then I intend on inviting my friend Tim from last week to play Blood and Plunder because he wrote the Legends of the High Seas.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be a hoot to play Blood and Plunder with. Since he wrote a different pirate game. But he likes Blood and Plunder, so and he said that they consulted him on the design, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure if you listened to the podcast last week, but
yeah, I did actually. I did this afternoon. That's why before I come on here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, we've gone over quite a bit. I'm sorry if I got you guys to stay up so late.
That's right.
I got to start preparing dinner here. So, yeah. So, anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap things up?
No, I'm all good, thanks. Yeah, it's been really good. It's been good to meet everyone and sort of get together and have a chat.
Yeah, it's cool, Craig.
All right. Outstanding. Well, thanks a lot for showing up, guys.
That's right.
And I'm going to sign us off of the podcast.